Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah. Another episode.
Drinking more beer, talking about more stuff. Nice. All right. Yep. We're going to travel a bit this time outside of the Midwest, which I know is a departure from our usual, but we're going to drink some Equilibrium.
Oh, okay. Where's Equilibrium from?
Middletown, New York, like the Hudson Valley region of the New York area. They got some distribution recently, and I've been seeing them for a bit around here. I'm not sure I've ever drank them though.
I'm not either. Now that you say it, I think I was thinking they were somebody else. I don't know who. I'm not going to name other breweries.
Yeah,
but
they're from New York.
So
we're gonna take a trip to New York.
That
Actually,
sounds good.
I
don't know how many
take
times.
A trip to New York.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many breweries in the New York area we've actually had on the podcast.
Not many would be my guess.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
Neither can I. So I can't say none, but
we've done a little bit East Coast, but it's all been like that North Carolina stuff.
Yeah, and then Boston and like
that's kind of it.
Yeah, I don't know if we've been to New York yet.
Yeah,
exciting.
We'll check it off the list. We should do a map.
We should. That's a good.
Why are we not? Yeah, write that down. Why do we not have a map?
We totally are doing this. All right, cool. Well, we're gonna open a Pils, South Street Pils.
That sounds good. I need like a drink.
Right, it's a Foder-aged Pilsner.
Oh, a Foder-aged Pilsner.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued. 5.5 ABV. Let's give this a little pour and give it a try.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, so Equilibrium. I didn't know much about them before I picked them up at the bottle shop. I was wandering around being like, what haven't we drank? Let's give something new a try.
Yeah.
And I picked this up. And yeah, so they're from Middletown, New York. They were actually opened up by a pair of MIT grads.
Okay.
So Equilibrium is like the beer balanced by science is kind of their thing. So let's give this a try, and then we'll talk a little bit more. Ooh. That was a positive, and the aroma is very nice. So.
Yeah, it has a stronger aroma than a usual Pils.
Yeah, more than I expected. Like maybe because of the aged. I don't know, but.
Yeah. Ooh. This is good.
This is a solid Pilsner.
Yeah, I really like it.
I actually really like this. I don't think I've had a Pils in a while, but like this is a very solid, very flavorful, very strong aroma, but pleasant. Like it's a really good, it's like kind of just a bold Pilsner.
Yeah.
Like some are a little bit more muted. This just has a more pronounced flavor to it, but everything you think of in a Pilsner is exactly what this is.
Yeah. No, this is, you know, Ooh. I got nothing more to say. You just said everything I was going to say. I mean, really crisp, clean, refreshing beer, but it has a little more body than you're used to.
Yes, definitely than a normal, like, typical Pilsner.
This is great.
I'm really liking this. This is really tasty.
You're 1-for-1 Equilibrium.
All right, Equilibrium. Yeah, so kind of interesting story. So it was started by a pair of MIT grads who wound up working together at an engineering firm. It says they kind of started as a water purification project that they were working on together, or they had worked on. They were trying to make clean water for people in need. So they were trying to take concentrated things out of water and kind of had the thought, well, really beer is just concentrated stuff in water. So
Yes.
it's the opposite
I
of
see
what
that.
that water purification project actually is. But they were really good at the taking stuff out. So they thought maybe we'd be really good at the putting stuff in.
I could see that. I think scientists probably make good brewers. So.
These two, from my very limited experience thus far, definitely do. But yeah, they wanted to combine beer, science and community, and kind of the equilibrium is just a play on all of that combination and balance of things. Their goal was to make the best beer in the world based on MIT trained scientific principles, along with a love for craft beer. They wanted to brew what they wanted to drink. So they thought, we're really interested in beer. Two guys, Pete and Ricardo, started this. Ricardo had home brewed for a number of years. And they both had an interest in craft beer. They started kind of very limited, making their own setup instead of going to Bed Bath & Beyond or something and buying a home brew kit. They started with like a shower head, a hose, a stove. Like there's a picture on their website of like their first original setup. And it's like, clearly they're scientists, but it's a whole hodgepodge of things. And they started brewing 6-barrel batches. Some of them wound up down the drain. Some of them wound up, perfecting whatever they wound up going to next. But they wound up purchasing their first location on the second level of a Henry Street building in 2015.
Okay.
Their first beers were officially released around 2017. And they wound up kind of having a regular Saturday releases. So it wound up being like a gathering place for people in the area. It's kind of in the Hudson Valley region, of people that liked beer, and people would start lining up at 4:30 in the morning on a Saturday to get their beers, and it really started gaining popularity. So they purchased a new facility in 2019, which is only a few blocks away from their first location. $3 million total cost renovation. They knocked down the building and started over.
Whoa.
30,000 square feet. This location has a tap room, a dog-friendly beer garden, a full-on barbecue restaurant with 2 massive smokers, 2 live fire grills. They have 22 draft lines. They also offer local wines, cider, soft drinks, things like that. So it's a place to hang out, to get food, to drink beer, and just enjoy the community, which is kind of one of their core things, was beer and science and community. And that's what they were going for. So that's the equilibrium way, I guess. But
well, that's awesome. Yeah. I really want to go there now.
Right?
Like all those things you just said.
I know.
We could just go and stay in a hotel across the street and just go there every day. Yeah. I don't even need to go on a Right? I don't need to see anything else. This is fine.
It's pretty cool. And, they definitely, if you read some of the stuff about how they develop some of their hops and different things, like they definitely have a science-minded way of going about everything.
Nice.
So that probably makes sense, recipes are often mathematical and scientific, and obviously the water and different things that you put into it. So very, very cool. I think it's a very science intertwined with beer and community. So
yeah, I think beer is that balance of art and science that you don't get in a lot of other areas, and I love that about beer. Yes. And I think that one word you didn't use is precision, and I think that brewers ultimately find out when they kind of start to go to the next level that if you aren't precise, you get those inconsistencies.
Yes,
and you end up with variation, which is a big complaint that consumers have.
If you're going to have the same beer that you're going to brew on a regular basis, essentially what you need is to be consistent. Yeah. And in order to get that, the recipe and execution of that recipe, like you said, has to be very precise. So, and that scientific background definitely would get you to that. I'm sure. I mean, they were both environmental engineers, and they graduated from MIT. I'm sure they learned a lot about precision and the work that they were doing before they decided that brewing was really their passion. So
That's cool. That's a good origin story.
I like it. I thought it was unique.
It's always nice when we get a new one. Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
It's
we get a lot of the same.
I mean, most are home brewers, which don't get me wrong, they were, but also combined with that scientific background is kind of a cool spin on the normal homebrew story.
And this is so good, I've almost already finished my taste. And we're going to drink more of it.
Thoroughly enjoying this one. So I am glad gave that one a try.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they essentially, at first, they really only planned on doing, like, kegs. But then in an interview, they said, but the beer came out really, really good. So, and people started lining up to get it.
Yeah, sure,
So they were
right?
kind of like, well, I guess we gotta, distribute this and can it and bottle it and get it out to the general public because there's obviously a demand for it. So.
Well, I am grateful. I'm grateful that they made that leap.
Yes, I agree. I am enjoying this very much. So, all right. Now.
All right. So let's move on to a totally unrelated topic. Sometimes we're able to beautifully segue from our brewery conversation.
Yeah.
And this is probably just not one of those moments.
Nope.
We try, you guys. We're not perfect.
No.
As you'll learn by our conversation about parents and our parenting styles. And we're not going to talk just about parenting styles because I think we could do an entire episode on that.
Oh, probably.
I think that would be a good episode for a guest.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'll touch a little bit on my parenting style, which I've talked about in previous episodes too. But we want to talk about our interactions with other parents.
Yes.
The good, the bad, the ugly, how we interacted with adults when we were maybe kids. I have a little bit to say about that.
Cool.
And we'll see where the conversation leads us.
All right.
But I'll start out by talking about, as a kid, my interactions with parents. In general, was mostly fine. I mean, I always thought most parents were nice. They, their kids were kind of in the same place as me. We were in school together, like you and I.
Yeah.
Geographically, we lived near each other. Our parents were, my parents were a little bit older than most of my friends' parents because I have an older brother. My parents were a little bit older when they got married as well. So they kind of just like a few notches over kind of most of my friends' parents, not everybody, but most. I had a small handful of friends who had older siblings that were friends with my brother.
Oh, yeah.
So in those cases, my mother already had a relationship with their mother.
Gotcha.
And, it was a very natural thing for us to be friends. The moms got along, which isn't always the case.
Not always.
Which is what we're going to
Definitely
talk
not
about,
always.
I think, primarily. But for the most part, it was really good. I will say, the moms that my mom was also friends with, it went a little bit all over the place,
Okay.
And my experience has been the same as a mother, so I can see that. I'm not going to name names, but I was friends with a girl in elementary school that you were also friends with, and my mom was friends with her mother, and they were in different places in their lives, I believe. But they were friends, and but ultimately my experience with this girl's mom was very negative. She wasn't like the nicest person in general, so it wasn't like I did something or she did
Wasn't
something.
you particularly, but it was just the
she
characters didn't mesh.
She
very
was
well.
abrasive in general, I think. And my friend and I had a little bit of a falling out, but before that even really happened, she just kind of jumped on me at one point and I don't want to say she like attacked me because that's
Sure.
overstating. But I was like 13 years old, and, still a child.
Yeah.
And she just really caught me off guard and kind of started yelling at me one time at her house. It was scary. It's a bad memory for me.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the only times I had a really negative, interaction with somebody's parent.
With a parent, especially at that age, yeah.
Well, and ultimately, I mean, it basically ended the friendship. I mean, I never really was friends with that girl again. I'm sure you've already figured out who I'm talking about. And, Facebook is an amazing thing. It reconnects people in many ways. And yes, I'm connected to this girl on Facebook now.
Sure.
And that's fine. Although I believe I've unfollowed her because exactly like her mom, I think. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but there are moments that I used to see when I would see Facebook posts that I kind of just was like, ugh, this is too much for me.
Deja vu.
Yeah, so I think that I've kind of moved away from that even now as an adult.
That's fair.
And I think that kind of indicates that, sometimes you do get a little bit of that, that the kids end up like the parents naturally.
Sure. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think that as a result, carries over as you go into adulthood.
Yeah.
Now, as an adult, do you want to weigh in on any kid-related stuff?
Well, I feel like as a kid, I had, again, mostly positive experiences with other adults. I will say that my parents had some interesting friends that were more my brother's friends' parents than mine, that even then, I think, looking back, I realized were very immature for adults. Like, if they were like, oh, we should do this, even at like 12, I would be like, but should we? Like,
maybe not.
Maybe you're not the best role model. So I feel like it ran the gamut of complete variations of people that were in my life when I was a kid.
That's interesting.
In terms of parents, and which I do think was beneficial to see different people and different parenting styles. And looking back, I think I gained a lot from different experiences with different types of parents, and some of those I look back and I'm like, I never want to be like that parent, and other people I'm like, I would love to emulate things like that parent,
how they interacted with their children.
I actually think it was actually good, even though at the time I'm sure there was no intention of that with my parents. They just wound up spending time with whoever they kids played baseball with, or they had this activity with, or whatever, and it just wound up being more about proximity and similar activities than anything else. But looking back, I think that it was actually a really good mix of different influences as a child growing up, seeing all of those different kinds of environments.
That, you said something that kind of struck me, because it even brings me back to this interaction I had with this one particular parent. You mentioned, like, it kind of guided you for, like, maybe I would do that, maybe I wouldn't do this. And that mother was very strict with her daughter. No dating, no cursing, no being out late, no driving, just like very, very strict rules. And of course, her daughter
completely
just disregarded all of those things. She had the foulest mouth of anybody I know.
Yes.
She definitely had moments in high school with boys when she wasn't supposed to.
Sure.
The rules for her.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking even then in high school, see, this is why you don't do that. You're not. You shouldn't be that strict with your kids.
Shouldn't be that extreme, because if you're going to be that extreme, they're probably going to rebel more.
They
than
go the other way. Yes. And so I think that I did benefit from that experience, because
seeing how that turned out.
I realized that if I say to my kids, don't drink underage, and don't smoke, and don't fight, and don't have sex, in high school,
and don't,
instead of just like having intelligent conversations with them about those things and being smart and responsible and finding like a balance, a level of, how to handle those situations. I got that experience from watching somebody take it to the extreme.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So that was a really good point that you made there. Seeing parents who maybe took it too far in one way or another.
Like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, exactly. So that was my experience as a child.
Yeah.
In a summary, I guess.
Yeah. I think that my experience with other parents has been very diverse. When I was a kid, I felt like most parents were, in general, I respected them and felt, comfortable with them and all those things.
Yeah.
As an adult, now that I've interacted with other parents, whether it's my kids' friends' parents or my friends as parents or relatives or anybody.
There's a whole spectrum that I'm seeing as being an adult. That's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
All over the board.
I mean, I'll give a couple of examples kind of in general. I've definitely run into the parents that when it comes to interacting with me as another parent, I find them to be flaky and they don't return phone calls and they don't respond to you and they say things at the last minute. They show up late to everything and I get a lot of that. I have interactions with other parents that I find they are attentive and trustworthy, and I leave my kids with them, which is a totally different standard than just
very different.
Liking somebody as a parent.
Trusting them to like watch your kids is a completely different realm of, yes, I'll hang out with you.
Right. Yeah, you can come over with your kid and we can chat and have a cup of coffee.
Very different.
That's one thing. It's an entirely different thing if I call you up and I'm like, I got to go to this doctor's appointment. It's kind of an emergency. Can you watch my kids for 2 hours?
Totally different.
There's a very short list of people I would call and ask that favor.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, so I've had some of those, though, which is great. And you're one of them.
Same. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. And then I've got, a handful of people that are in the middle, that I like and I get along with and seem in general pretty good, but I wouldn't call them my friend, either.
I would say, I was actually having this conversation with my husband the other day, and I would say that, and it came up in a totally different realm, but my entire life, I've only had a handful of really close friends.
Sure.
And far more acquaintances than anything else.
Okay.
So like most of my small category of I trust you and
sure.
That has always been small. Even as a kid, that was small.
Yeah.
I never had a ton of friends that I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna have a sleepover with, or yes, I'm gonna go on a weekend with, or like I never really had that many.
I went through some waves with that a little bit. There were times growing up where I had like a group that I was a part of, especially like early in high school when I joined marching band.
Yeah,
marching band is such a
like
big
that.
Organization where you're kind of sort of friends with everybody in it. But then there would be moments where there would be drama in that group. Oh, this guy is dating this girl and they just broke up because he cheated on her and now they don't talk to each other and now we're all friends with both of them and
like,
what do we do?
Yeah.
And like those moments just got exhausting. And so by the time I finished high school, which sounds like pretty old to have made this determination, in my opinion, but by that point, I had kind of decided, I don't have to be friends with everyone, and I don't really have to make the extra effort with everyone.
No.
I felt that way, actually, even more so when we went off for our first year of college, and we had 2 random roommates. I liked our roommates. They were nice.
They were fine.
I did not leave the dorm at the end of the year thinking that they were going to be my friends forever.
Nope, me neither.
And it's fine.
Yeah, I was okay with it.
Perfectly
they didn't
fine
need to be.
and nice people, and I got along with. We never screamed at each other.
No.
I didn't have moments like that.
But it was just fine.
But it was fine, and I didn't need to be friends with them when we moved out. I was just like,
yeah, cool. Good luck.
Yeah,
like I
see
wish you the
around.
best.
Yeah, maybe I'll see you on campus or see you out at some point, and that would be fine. And that was the extent of my relationship with them. And I think by the time I had gotten to college, I had realized that, and as a result, sort of started to filter through even some of the friends I left high school with, and decide,
which of these are really truly going to be the long-term friends that I have. And those changed. Like there were some that even after college I thought I was going to be friends with for a long time, and by whatever, circumstances that didn't happen. But even now I can say, like, when I was planning my 40th birthday, like, I only had a handful of people that I was like, I even want to join me.
I don't know what your invite list looked like, but
there were like 2 other people on it, and that was it. And I knew those 2 weren't going to come, because they couldn't, family, etc.
But you wanted them there.
But
it was
that
just,
was it.
Yeah,
that was the whole list. It wasn't even a short list. It was a very short list to begin with. There weren't that many. But so those were the like important people in my life that I trust and I'm close with. And that was really it. But I'm sorry, I'm totally sidetracking. But as in terms of like close parent friends that I actually trust, it is still a small circle. But because I have 3 children, the acquaintance piece becomes much, much larger.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of parents I interact with, and only a handful that I would say I'm actually friends with.
Sure. So. Yeah, and and I don't believe that that's bad. I think that that's kind of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't need to be friends with everybody.
No.
That's not a thing that I really desire to be.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm cool with
I
that.
think it's just it's a nice little bonus if once in a rare while you connect with somebody, even if it's temporary, even if you spend a year or so with that person, just maybe grab a drink, maybe you hang out, maybe the kids get along, get together, and if it fades,
that's fine.
It's fine.
There's a handful of right now moms that are friends that are my son's friends' moms. And a handful of us have hung out a couple of times.
Sure.
Not like a lot, but I feel like we all get along and we can hang out, and even without the kids, like we can hang out, go grab a drink, dinner, whatever. And it's good. Do I think that that's going to be a long-term thing? I have no idea. Maybe for as long as the kids are friends, maybe not. Like, they're our connection is the kids. And I'm not at the point now that without that kid connection, I think we would really stay in touch. But we're friendly. I enjoy them. Like, like if I need someone to watch my son, I would definitely trust like his best friend's mom. Yeah, totally. He's spent the night there before, and he's been totally fine, and I have no problem with that.
Right.
But again, that's a relatively small group.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's also a handful of parents that I'm like, I actually don't want you hanging out with their kids because I don't like or trust their parents.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I actually had a moment not long ago where I got the feeling a parent felt that way about me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it came as a big surprise.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure why I was surprised. I mean, she doesn't know me that well, but I guess I didn't think I had done anything that warranted like distrust or concern.
Right.
But my younger son has a friend who lives nearby, and they play together quite often. The weather's been so gorgeous that we're almost always outside, which is a huge blessing because I want my kids to play outside. Same. Thank goodness. And we really like this kid. He's a really awesome kid.
Oh, that's nice.
And he's a year older than my youngest. Okay. So he's like 2 years younger than my oldest. Okay. So he's right in the middle.
Yeah.
He's great.
Cool.
Like I said, we really like him. I'd met both his parents at some time or another. Sure. His mom does not speak English.
Oh, so that's a little hard.
So it's challenging. Yeah. Now, the kid, he speaks English and Spanish. Gotcha. So he can
translate, but
let's remember he's 9 or 10.
So it's a little different.
A kid. So when I found out that what turned out to happen was she wasn't comfortable with the kids coming over to our house and playing. And she has a daughter, too, who's, I think, a year younger than my youngest.
Sure.
Close in age.
Okay.
And she wasn't comfortable with them coming over and being inside our house because she told her son that she didn't know me.
Okay.
So I was like, "Oh no, I don't. I don't want that."
Let's talk. Yeah.
I went over there and I was like, "Hey, your son said that you're not really that comfortable with your kids at my house because you don't really know me, and I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean for them to develop such a positive relationship without you and I interacting at all.
Fair.
I didn't, I don't want you to feel that way.
Yeah.
And, maybe explain to me what you're concerned about." And she went on to explain that she was kind of under the impression that my husband and I work from home, and that as a result, when the kids are there, she thought maybe we were working, that we weren't just home.
Which is not at all the case.
No, which is not at all the case. And but she didn't know, and she works from home, so I think she just thought maybe that's what I did.
Sure.
And she just was concerned that they weren't being supervised.
Sure. Okay.
And so I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a manageable problem. I can fix this because that's not the case at all." And I explained that I don't work from home, that I have a job outside the house, and so does my husband, and that when we are home and we invite her son to play, it's because the parents are home with the kids.
One of you is monitoring.
And we would always be there and be fully attentive.
Yeah.
And she was kind of just like, okay. So I don't really know if I swayed her. At least I didn't think that I did.
Yeah.
And I kind of just walked away with like the attitude, well,
okay,
I guess we'll just see how it plays out. If he comes over, then great. If he doesn't, then, they can play outside. My son can go to their house once in a while if she's comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with her and her husband. Her husband I've talked to a handful of times.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable with them.
Yeah.
And I will say that her concerns about like being attentive actually were kind of reassuring.
Yeah,
for
because
me,
then
because
that
it
would
made
be
me
like,
think,
oh, okay, well, you're watching your
yeah, you
kids
think
then.
that's really important.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, cool. Though I will say that I don't know if I would be comfortable with my child always going to someone else's house and not having that exchange.
Well, and I was feeling that way, which is kind of why I kept pushing for this kid to come over.
Yeah.
At one point, my kid had gone over there a few times in a row, several maybe.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, why don't you invite him over here? Why doesn't he come over here? You guys play here. You're always welcome. I mean, they're
Yeah.
older. I don't have to sit on the floor and build a block tower.
Right, they're not
I just have to
babies.
sit in the
Room
at
or
the
the
kitchen
next
table
room or
and
somewhere, yeah.
drink my
so
coffee
I
on
can
a
hear
Saturday.
if something happens, yes.
Yeah, and I really don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started to feel wishy-washy about
Sure,
the situation.
I would probably feel the same, yeah.
Yeah. And then something kind of happened that sort of took matters a little bit worse, I guess. A couple days ago, my son went over there, and we decided that we didn't want him walking back home by himself if it was dark outside.
Well, it's getting so dark so early
It
now,
gets
yeah.
dark at like 6:15.
Yeah.
So I was like, you can go over there after dinner, but we're going to come and get you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come at like 7:30 and get you so that you have time to shower and read before bed and get ready for bed.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So I go over there. I knock on the door. No answer. I ring the doorbell. I pound on the door. I wait. 10 minutes. Maybe not 10 minutes. 5 minutes go by.
But a while.
A while.
Who doesn't answer their door?
Who doesn't answer their door when they're home and they have guests?
And they know that there's someone who's not living in that house in the house. Like,
right?
Yes.
So I'm like, eventually, I knock loud enough that the
Yeah.
mom comes to the door, and I'm like, hey, I'm just looking for Abraham. He's got to head home.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay. And she invited me in.
Sure.
She's always welcomed me inside the house.
Yeah.
And Abraham's sitting in the room, like right next to the front door. How
So
my own
did
child
no
did
one
not hear
the door.
I don't know. And he's just like, oh, we got to go? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
And we
time to go.
leave.
Yeah.
And this was a little while ago, and
Yeah.
I kind of chalk it up, okay, isolated incident.
Sure. Well,
Maybe, I will say this. If I had gone into my backyard or I had gone down into the basement,
you wouldn't necessarily hear the door.
I might not hear the
yeah.
door. And my kids sometimes, when they have a friend over, they'll play in their room.
Sure.
And so
Same.
maybe they wouldn't hear the
Yeah.
door. So let's chalk it up
Okay.
to an
It
accident.
happened. Let's just move on.
One
Yeah.
time is
Yep.
a coincidence.
Yes.
It's not a
One
pattern.
time is not a pattern yet. Yes.
So then yesterday it happened again.
Oh.
My husband went to go get my son and knocked on the door and waited and he was probably gone. I was home. He was probably gone 15 minutes.
Oh wow. So
and
he
this
was
kid
waiting.
lives like 3 houses down from us.
So he was waiting for quite a while.
He waited.
Yeah.
Nobody came to the door.
That's so weird.
So I text the dad because I have the dad's phone number.
Right.
Hey, we're looking for my son. My husband came by, knocked on the door. No one answered.
Yeah.
Can you just get him ready? We're going to come back.
Yeah.
No response. Don't hear from the dad. And now I'm starting to be like,
Okay.
dude,
what's
come on.
going
You're
on?
worrying me a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, are you even home?
Right. What
Like-
happened to my kid?
What's going on?
Yeah.
So my husband and I both walk over there together
Yeah.
and knock on the door, and my son immediately answers the door, and he's just like, I thought you were coming at 7:30. It's almost 8 o'clock.
You're like, I did.
No, dude, we were here at 7:30. You
Yeah.
did not answer, and no one did.
Answered.
And so we walked home and we talked to my son and we were like, we don't want you walking home by yourself. And if they're not going to answer the door, then you can't go over there after dinner anymore, period.
Right.
Because I just
We can't keep
really
doing
uncomfortable
this. Yeah.
with that. And
That's
I don't.
so weird to me to have someone else's kid at your house and not be cognizant of a doorbell ringing. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, would you see? I mentioned, if I had gone in the backyard or something. If I ever did that, which I don't believe I have ever done while having kids in my house,
Right.
I would be back inside
Yeah.
within a minute or two.
Correct.
It would be like, oh no,
I
the
gotta
wind's
run
blowing
and
really
grab-
hard. I
yeah,
gotta bring the
take
umbrella down.
Exactly. Literally that.
Ding, like
Yeah.
that.
And then
would,
I run back in.
that
Yes.
would be, or it's raining super hard
And
and I
that's
left
it.
a chair outside.
Right, but that's it. And if you know that obviously your son knew he was going to be picked up around 7:30. So if you're like, okay, your mom's going to pick you up around 7:30, I would literally be waiting around 7:30 to answer that door.
I mean,
like,
yeah,
that's so
too many
me.
coincidences to be a coincidence.
Yeah.
You know? So we were like, you can't go over there after 7:30 anymore.
Sure.
Like 45 minutes go by and the dad responds to my text message. And he's just like, oh, sorry, I just saw this. I know you ended up getting Abraham. I hope everything worked out.
What's going on in that house? That just makes me like, where are the parents? What is going on? Like, what? Yeah, and again, I don't want to jump to conclusions or anything, but like, that is not normal to me. Especially when you have someone else at your house. Like,
yeah.
I've dropped my kids off at plenty of people's houses. I've never waited more than like a doorbell ring for somebody to answer.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Well, and I can hear their doorbell. So like it works.
You know it works.
My doorbell is 50-50 sometimes.
Sure.
It's a junk doorbell, and I refuse to replace it because I don't even like having it.
Yeah.
So, like, replacing it sounds like a dumb investment.
Fair enough.
I don't want you to ring my doorbell. Don't come.
That's fine. But if you're expecting someone to pick their kid up at a certain time, you're going to pay attention.
Absolutely.
So I think that... Also, I will say, I may not always have my phone on me, but if I have someone else's kid at my house, I generally do. In case they need to call, in case something happens, in case something comes up. Like, I want to be accessible. And I feel like that's a relatively normal thing. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I guess, again, parents are different. The thing is that if that mom was concerned about you guys not supervising, you would think that she would be very close to wherever the kids were.
That's sort of what I was implying, was that I was kind of comforted by her concerns because it meant that she was very attentive with them.
But is that true?
I don't know.
Based off of the experience.
Now, here's the last wrinkle. Today, I came home from work, and all of the kids were playing in my backyard and had played in the house for a while and then decided to go outside and play. And then... This is kind of, I feel kind of bad about this. The dad texted me, but it was while I was helping my husband transfer his phone because he got a new phone. And he was texting me to make sure everything was working. And I didn't notice another text message.
Gotcha.
But I noticed it like 5 minutes later.
Oh, okay.
And in the meantime, the mom had come and gotten the kids.
Gotcha.
So they did not wait for me to respond. They just came over.
They just came and got him.
And he was just like, my mom's here, I'm going to go.
Probably answered the door or some semblance of that.
Yeah.
So, interesting. All right, I'm going to open this. We can chat for a minute, but let's...
In terms of parenting style, I'm not sure if it's obvious, but I tend to be pretty laid back. This is a double IPA that we're drinking. Fluctuation.
I'm going to wait and let that settle.
Yours
mine
is all foam.
Very heady. So, my pour
I tend to be very, like, kind of let
Pass
things play out sort of person, rather than the kind of person that's, like, going to dive straight in all the time. I don't really do that. I don't want to sound lazy. I just kind of don't hover too much.
Yes. I have friends that are both... I have friends on different ends of the spectrum on this. I have friends that are helicopter parents and hover completely. Then I have friends that probably give their children too much leeway or try and be their friend and don't parent enough. And then I have some friends who... I shouldn't call them friends. I have some acquaintances who I really do not enjoy their company because they do not discipline their children at all.
Yeah.
And that piece are people that I know as adults that have children, not that are my children's friends. So
right, I see.
And
that makes things so awkward, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
That you're like, oh, this is my friend, but I'm not sure they're a good parent.
Exactly.
You know
That's
what I mean?
quite literally the scenario. Sometimes is like, okay, like I love you and you're my friend, and I'm watching you parent your child, and I'm like, that kid's gonna be screwed up when they get older, like. And I've said that internally in my head a handful of times and been like, man, like, or that kid is a brat. Like, I do not want that kid at my house because they are a brat. But I'm friends with their parents. And that's harder, I feel like, because I'm friends with them first. And when I'm like, I don't really want you to come over with your family because I don't like your kid, and that's your fault.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's an awkward situation.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely have all spectrums. Like, your kids and my kids get along fine, you know, like, and I feel like when we are together, we are similar parenting. Like, we're not hovering, we're not letting them get away with everything, but like, they're going to be able to go play video games. They're going to be able to go play outside. They're going to, you know, they have some freedoms. And I'm not going to,
like, when we've come to your house, there have been times where my kids have, like, gone upstairs and played in your son's room. Yeah. And I don't follow them up there. No. Now, there's been moments where I'm like, it's getting kind of loud. Sure. We should check on
what are you
them.
doing? Yeah. Yes, but I'm not.
But that's the extent. I don't need you and I to move
to watch,
into the bedroom and supervise that kind of
Nor
situation.
do I. I don't want to have to do that.
No.
And I think that the expectation we have of our children is that we don't have to do that. Like, you're going to behave whether I'm in the room or when I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's what I expect of you. And if you're not, then you're not going to have friends over.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to sit there and have to monitor. You guys are old enough. Like, I don't want to have to sit and hover over you.
Yeah.
So, or even in the backyard, like, go play in the backyard. Like, even the twins are old enough now. Like, if they're together, like, go ride around the block. Go, you know, like, as long as you're together. I don't want you by yourself because, you know. But if it's a group of you, like my daughter's friend, one of her friends was over yesterday, and the three of them went and they took the scooter and the bikes and they rode around the block and they were together. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I'm not going to worry about it as long as you stick together and you follow the rules. Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So,
and unless they betray your trust in some fashion, that rule will stand.
Exactly. And that's very much how we parent in this house. And I enjoy having friends that parent in the same way.
That have the same philosophy.
Much easier. Even when we, like, go places, you know, or, like, whatever together, it's not like one of us is, like, standing next to the kids at all times, having to be like, okay, I'm watching you, because I don't want to have to do that.
Right.
So it's a whole lot easier when you're similar versus one is a completely laid back, I don't care what my kid does, I don't even know where she is, he is, you know, whatever, or I'm going to sit right next to him within 5 feet so I can watch their every move. You can't, those two styles of friends, like, don't mash.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I think that your parenting style does affect your friendships.
I think it does. I really do. I think it does. I think it's often difficult as you have families to spend as much time socializing with people that have vastly different parenting styles than you do.
Yes.
And it's a lot easier when you're similar.
Yes. So 100%. I agree. I mean, and you kind of touched on how you have friends that have a different parenting style, whatever that might be, and it kind of makes you not comfortable being around them with their kids.
Yes. Yeah.
And I see that in minor examples for myself. Yeah. I do have friends who have different parenting styles than me, and at times I feel like, you know, I'll have that thought that you had where you're like, oh man, is this kid gonna turn out okay? You know, like, I feel like in general, my parents did a very good job raising my brother and I, but I also know that I was very dependent on my mom. And so as a result, there were times where I struggled being away from her. And I'm not saying she did anything wrong.
No.
I was essentially an only child because my brother was so much older.
Your mom spent a ton of time with you. So, you know, and my brother and I were only a couple of years apart.
Right.
And I was the older one. So it was a little bit different of a scenario.
Well, and I get that vibe a lot from my friends who are the oldest sibling. It's a funny situation. I could almost spend a whole conversation talking about that because I'm the youngest. And my husband is also the youngest. So it's really interesting for us. Yeah. Because we have an oldest.
That is interesting.
And we don't really get his dynamic in the family sometimes.
Because it's different. Yeah, you guys weren't the old. Neither of you were the oldest.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of like,
yeah.
How do you handle the oldest child? Like,
it's kind of interesting though. Yeah, the age, you know, whatever birth order of which you were is interesting. I do think
that I am sure there are studies and there are books about what, you know, which sibling, which child are you in the birth order.
All right, well, I'm gonna do some research.
I want to hear about that.
All
we'll put that in somewhere.
Add it to the list somewhere. All right, I'm going to try this.
Yeah, let's drink the beer.
Double IPA, 8.1% ABV.
Yeah.
Smells like an IPA. Mine was very heady. It has since dwindled
Yes.
to a reasonable, manageable head.
It is very carbonated, though. I can feel it like all the way down my esophagus.
It's
it
a
is
bit more carbonated than I expected.
I might have a little bit of chest pains later from
That's
this.
not good. Indigestion, some
Yeah,
sort
some
of
indigestion, if you will. Chest pains is the wrong word, but that's where I'll feel it. But
It does have that carbonation on your tongue. I don't feel it as much, but maybe later. We'll see. It is a little bit less on the citrusy side than some other double IPAs that I've had.
I thought that too. It's almost a milder flavor. It's funny because the Pilsner was like a bolder Pilsner.
It was like in your face Pilsner, and this I feel like is a little bit more subdued.
Double IPA.
And it's like a weird flip. It's definitely a double IPA. I mean, there's no denying that the flavor is that. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit less on the citrusy side and maybe more depending. I don't know what the hop profile is of it. Depending on what the hops are, definitely give a different kind of profile to it. I don't even think it lists the hops.
Huh.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, most IPAs will tell you what hops are in it.
Tells you what artwork's in it.
Okay.
No. Anyways, all right. Well, I loved the Pilsner. This is a double IPA. It's fine. It's not my favorite double IPA, but I would still give them another try because they're pretty solid beers.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the first beer. I like
this
beer a lot. So I'm happy with this. Equilibrium, way to go. Good job.
I'm happy that we gave them a try.
Yeah.
So if you're ever in the Hudson Valley area of New York, look them up.
Every time you say the Hudson Valley, I
you think about the plane that... No?
No, that's good though. But I think about Into the Spider-Verse where they're going to go to the lab. And he's like, I'm not going to swing all the way to the Hudson Valley, especially after a burger breakfast.
Man, I haven't seen that movie in a while. I got to add it back onto the list. So.
Yeah, watch it again. It'll be worth it.
I like it.
That's our recommendation for tonight, you guys. All right.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week, and cheers to you all.